Hello everyone, am I audible? Hello, am I audible? Okay guys, fine. So I think I'm audible to every one of you. Now I'll start with the class. So I'm going to share my screen. So I think in last class, yeah, so we were talking about like what is our OP programming language and how we can try to create our own object, our own classes. And then we have seen many other concepts, like we have seen encapsulation inside this one. We have seen many ways, I would say a variety of ways we have seen by which we can create our classes, we can create our objects, we can pass our data to the class. So basically, like these are the approach that we have seen. Even we have seen that what are the good approach, what are the bad approach. Now, so in today's class, again, so we will try to extend the same lecture. So I think we have discussed till inheritance, and we have seen that how we will be able to inherit from the single class, or how I will be able to inherit from the multiple class. If we have a same method inside multiple classes, then how I will be able to handle it. So even this kind of a situation we have seen. So fine, in this class, first of all, I would like to show you like a method overriding. So we have already seen that basically, like we were trying to, so method overloading kind of a concept we have already seen, where so in a str method, the default method, which is already available inside any of the classes, so we will be able to like override it, and then we will be able to give our own definition. Now in today's class, so we will try to understand that what is method overriding. So method overloading is something different as compared to method overriding. So fine guys, let's try to understand it. So what I will do is I would like to create a simple class over here. So maybe I can try to do like a person class in this particular place, and after creating a person class, so I can try to call maybe init method over here. So def and then underscore I in it. And then what I can do is, so I can try to pass some variable in this particular place. So maybe a comma b comma c, something like that. And then on top of that, so I will try to do like a self dot a is equal to a, and then like a self dot b is equal to b, and a self dot c is equal to c. And by doing this, so I'm just trying to pass a data to my classes through the pointer or through the reference, as simple as that. Now, so what I will do is, so I will try to create a simple and plain str method, so that we have already created in our last class, and let's try to understand it. So we have already done this method overloading operation, so where we were trying to call underscore str, and then so we were trying to give our own definition. So we were trying to give our own definition. Suppose if I'm going to write like a self over here, and then so return wise, as we all know that str method always returns a string. If you are trying to return something else apart from the string, for sure it is going to give you an issue when you will try to call your object with that. So like without that, if I'm just trying to execute my classes, in that case you are not going to receive an issue. But yes, when you are going to call an object, at that point of a time, it is going to give you some kind of a issue. So fine guys, not a problem. So I will try to handle it over here. So let's suppose if I'm writing that my name is SUDH over here. Now if I'll try to execute it, it's completely fine. Now let's suppose if I'm going to create a person class object over here, and inside this, so as we have already passed ABC, so I can try to pass some data 3, 4, 5 I have passed. Now, so let me check. Self is not defined. Okay, so there is a minor mistake. Okay, so again, CLF, SCLF. Okay, so let's rectify it, and it's completely fine. Now, if I'm going to call print, print p. So as we all know that if I'm going to call just an object without this str method, if my class is not having a str method, and if I'm going to call just an object, so in that case, it is going to give me just a object, I would say location. So if I'm going to comment this out, so suppose if I'm going to comment this part of a code, and then if I'll try to execute, you will be able to find out that it is going to give me just an object. So it is not going to print, or it is not going to give me any kind of a message. So if I'm going to overload, if I'm going to overload, I would say this particular method, and then if I'll try to execute it, so yes, I'm able to find out this particular string. That is completely fine. This is what our understanding is so far, so forth, based on our discussion. Now what I will do is I will try to create another class called as student, student, and then in this class what I will try to do is, so I will try to call a person class, person. So person person class I'm trying to call. It means that, so I'm trying to inherit the property of a person class into a child class. So my person class is a parent class and my student class is basically a child class. Now what I should do after that? So it's completely fine. Let's try to do one thing. So let's try to create some of the variable which belongs to a child class itself, and then so we will try to understand that what is a meaning of a method overriding. So let's try to understand this part over here. So here I'm going to create maybe again init method, init, and then inside this one again I'm writing a pointer, and maybe I can try to write student underscore id, which is a variable belongs to my student class. And then so I have to import all the variables or all the attributes which I have defined, or maybe if I have to redefine it inside a child class. So in that case, I can try to pass just this args over here. And then if I will try to maybe call super and super of what? So super of my student, student. And then I can try to write a pointer. I'm trying to override, I would say, like init method, init underscore, and then I can try to pass args over here. So this is what we have done even in a last class. Now I can try to define a local variable, so student variable which I have created, student id variable which I have created. So I will try to define my student id variable. So self.student id, I would say. So id is equal to student student id. So it's completely fine. So I'm able to define this local variable. Now I will try to execute it. Now while executing these things, so let's suppose I'm trying to create one student object, and then student object is equal to student. So it's completely fine. And then so for sure it will be expecting some kind of a values. So you are supposed to pass some kind of a values. So missing 3 positional requirement or argument for A, B, and C. So it's completely fine, not an issue. So I'm supposed to pass some kind of a data over here. So 4, 5, 6. Now it's happy. Now if I'm going to call this S object, so for sure it is going to give me some kind of a location. Now if I'm trying to call these things inside a print, so you will be able to find out that I have not mentioned any kind of a str method over here. I have not defined any kind of str method, but still it is trying to print some kind of a message for me when I'm trying to call an object. Now from where I'm able to get this message? So I'm able to get this message, I can say, from my parent class, because I have already done an inheritance. And what is the meaning of inheritance? Simply, so whatever things are available in my parent class, so do one thing, try to get all the variables, all the methods, all the parameters from my parent class to my child class. As simple as that. So yes, that's the reason. So I'm able to get this particular one. But what if I wanted to override this one? What if I wanted to add some string? So whenever I'm going to call a student class, basically, so what it should do is, so it should be able to override it, and it should be able to give me this string, plus it should give me some other string as well. So I don't want to print like a fresh new string. So I wanted to utilize this string, plus I wanted to create, or I wanted to append something from my side. So in that case, what I can do is, it's again very simple. So I will try to implement a concept of method overriding in this particular place. So again, I will try to override my str method, str, which is a default one. And then, so what I will do is, so I will try to call, first of all, a parent definition. So whatever definition I have given over here, so return is equal to my name is studh. So I wanted to append something. I don't want to rewrite the same thing again. Simple. This is my problem. If I wanted to rewrite, yes, not a problem. So I will try to create a return, and then I will be able to write my same string plus some other string all together, and I will be able to get this. But no, I don't want to do that. What I want is, so I wanted to call my parent class, and whatever I have written, it is supposed to return. Apart from that, or on top of that, so it is supposed to add, or it is supposed to return something else. So let's try to do that. So in this case, I will try to return return what? So first of all, call a super. call a super, and then super of whom? So super of student, 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 and then I'm trying to point this one, and then on top of that, so do one thing, call a str method. So whatever str method that we have written, call this one. Now in this way, when I have written super of a student is equal to person class, basically, because person is a parent class. So just try to call this up, and then call what method? So call str method, means whatever definition we have given over here, call this one for sure. And then I wanted to add something. So maybe I wanted to add that I am a student. So here, when I'm going to call this print, so you will be able to find out that it is trying to print my name is SUDH. I have not written it over here. My name is SUDH. It is trying to bring from where? It is trying to bring from a super class, the person class, in which whatever definition I have given, and on top of that, so it is trying to add something else which belongs to a specific to a student class, I would say. And here, so if I'm trying to print this one, so it's trying to give me my name is SUDH and I'm a student. So it's very simple, I would say. It's not at all a big deal. And this phenomena, this operation is called as a method overriding. So I'm just trying to override. So whatever definition I have given for a str method, so I'm just trying to override it from a parent to the child. And in this way, I'm able to give my own definition inside a child class. Now, if I'm trying to create a person object, if I'll try to print a person object, so print and print a person object, so still it will be able to print only that string which is available to a person class. But if I'm trying to print something from a student class, if I'm trying to print an object of the student class, so it is trying to give me this entire definition. So half of the definition it is trying to bring up from the person class or the parent class, and then so it is trying to add something else from the child class. So again, it's very simple. So this is called as a method overriding, and then any one of you will be able to do that. It's not at all a big deal. Simple thing is, so you are supposed to call a parent class method, whatever parent class method that you have created. So in this way, you will be able to call it, and then whatever you want to return, so you will be able to return it in this particular fashion. So I'm assuming that all of you are clear with these things. So now let's try to talk about another concept called as encapsulation. So let's try to understand that what is a meaning of encapsulation and how I will be able to achieve a encapsulation. So I'm assuming that all of you have used a tablet. So tablet or some kind of a medicine. So whenever we feel sick, so for sure, like our doctors used to prescribe a tablet, and based on the prescriptions, so we used to take a tablet, a capsule. I'm just trying to explain you the layman meanings of encapsulation. So fine, but we used to take a tablet, and then either it is going to react or maybe it is going to cure us. Simple. So, but still, we don't have any idea that what people have filled inside this particular capsule. We are just trying to take it based on the doctor's prescription, and then it can work or it cannot. Depends, basically depends upon the doctor's observation. So it is going to work or it is not going to work sometime. So in the similar way, you will be able to write a code. In a similar way, there is a concept which exists inside a OOP programming language. So encapsulation is I would say encapsulation is one of the kind of a concept which is available in a OOP programming language, where what you can do is, so you can try to create a multiple methods, you can try to create a multiple classes. And let's suppose a person X has created a class 1, class 2, and class 3. And let's suppose person Y. So person Y wanted to implement a same class, or maybe so whatever calculation person X has done inside a class 1, class 2, or class 3, so person Y wanted to implement, or they wanted to get a value out of these classes or the methods which has been implemented inside a class. Now to achieve that, so the one simplest possible approach is, so person Y is supposed to create this class again, This is one of the approach. And I would say that no, by using this approach, so I will not be able to reuse the code which someone else has already written. So if someone else has already written a code in your team, so for sure you are not supposed to create it again, or you're not supposed to write a code again, because in an industry label, so for sure you will end up writing maybe a 10,000 line of a code. And if someone has already worked on something, so for sure you are not supposed to work again. In this case, a concept of encapsulation will come into a picture, where what you can do is, so you can try to utilize someone else's work, and then by utilizing someone else's work, so you will be able to implement it, and you will be able to pass a data, and you will be able to get a value. And at the same point of a time, so you are not supposed to worry about the pattern or the approach or the method definition that person has written. For example, so in a past we all have used a function called as range, or maybe we have used a function called as list, or maybe a dictionary, or maybe a tuples. And inside a dictionary, inside a list, inside a tuple, there are many more methods, or there are many more functions which was already defined or which was already created. So we have used it. Now, so you just know that, okay, so what is the input this function is going to take? This is what you know. And second thing is, you have an idea that what is the output I will be able to get. But most of you won't be having any idea that how this function is been implemented, what we have written inside this function. For sure we are not aware about that particular part. So basically, someone has already created a function, someone has already created a classes, and someone has already encapsulated it, and you are just trying to pass a data, and then you are just trying to get your output. This is what you are trying to do. So this concept is called as a encapsulation, where we will be having an idea that what I can pass as an input, what I will be able to get as an output, but we are going to hide an implementation. We won't be having any kind of a clue, or we won't be having any kind of idea that what is been written inside a particular classes or inside a particular function. That is called as a encapsulation. Means I know input, I know output, but I don't know about the implementation. So we will try to achieve a encapsulation over here, and it's a little bit like a difficult topic, I would say. So whenever I will try to explain you, so just try to focus here for next 10 to 15 minutes, and this encapsulation topic will be very much clear, I would say. So let's try to understand it, that what is called as a encapsulation. A very simple meaning of encapsulation is, so we are just going to hide the implementation. We are not supposed to worry about a implementation part at all. So what I can do is, so I can just utilize a function or the methods or the class which has been created by someone else. So here I will try to create a variety of the classes. I will try to create a variety of the function, and let's see what happens and what we are going to get over here. So fine, let's get started about the encapsulation, and let's try to understand that whether we are able to hide an implementation or not, and by hiding the implementation, whether we are able to achieve encapsulation or not. So fine guys, what I will do is I will try to create a multiple classes over here. Now, so let's try to create a class, a very simple class, I would say. Let's suppose a class tyre. Same example I have already given you in your slide as well. And let's suppose our definition, and I'm trying to create a init method over here. And then so I can try to create maybe a branch. So for the tyre, so branch branch bias and opt pre, optimal pressure, I can try to create. And then so these are just these are just a data which I'm trying to pass, or these are just an argument which I will try to pass over here. So self dot branch is equal to branch, and then self dot, so I'm just trying to initialize each and everything. BISE is equal to BAISE, and then what I'm trying to do is, so I'm trying to create like a self dot opt underscore pre is equal to opt underscore pre. It's completely fine. So I have basically created one particular class which is called as a tyre, and then I'm trying to pass some kind of a data inside a tyre class. So basically with the help of init method. And let's try to do one thing. So let's try to override, I would say, str method as well. so str method, and here, so I can try to do like a self, and then inside this one, so I can try to return return return. So return what? So do one thing. So return all those branch, bias and optimal pressure. So I can try to return in this way. So maybe I can try to return like okay, so maybe like str whatever I'm going to pass over here. So I can try to convert it into a str, and then self dot branch, bran branch, branch, and then so maybe I can try to return over here str. So I'm just trying to do a typecasting over here. So self dot, I can say BAISE, I can try to return. Plus what I can do is, so I can try to return maybe like optimal pressure. So it's completely fine. So str and then opt, and we can try to return this particular part. It's completely fine. Let's test this class. So I can try to create a T is the object of the tire class, so TYRE, and then inside that, so I can try to pass branch is equal to maybe XYZ, and then bias is equal to 56 maybe, and optimal pressure is equal to 33. We can pass over here. So it's completely fine. Now, if I'm going to call a tire class, if I'm going to print this tire class, print, so in this case, so whatever I have written inside the str method, it is supposed to return. So let's check. OPT pressure is not defined. So OPT PRE, let me check the spelling. Okay, so branch self, and okay, so we have missed a self over here. Okay, now it's completely fine. I'm able to get it. So in between, maybe just to maintain a proper indentation, so I can try to add maybe a plus operator over here. So let's try to add it. Okay, so fine. This is a return that we are getting from the tire class. Now what I will do is, so I will try to create a engine class this time. So let's see. So how we can create an engine class. So what I can do is, so I can try to create like a class engine, and inside a class engine. So again, I will try to do a same thing. So def underscore init. So just try to practice these things with me, guys. I think that will be better. So it's completely fine in it, and then I can try to write like a self over here, and then fuel, I can say fuel le underscore type, fuel type noisc, label I can try to create in this particular place, and then self dot fuel type is equal to fuel type, I can try to write in this particular place, and then self dot noise label is equal to noise label, I can try to create. And then so I can try to override a str method, so underscore str underscore, and then I can try to write a pointer, and then I can try to write a return over here, and return wise just do one thing, so str and then return me self dot noise label, and then plus, and then maybe I want to give some space in between, and then str, and then try to return maybe a fuel type, self sclf dot fuel type. It's completely fine. And then I can try to create engine class over here. I can try to pass two values in this particular place. So engine type is maybe petrol, and then noise label, maybe I can try to mention something into a decibel. So it's completely fine. If I'm going to print my engine class E, so I'm able to get, okay, fine. So 56 and petrol. This is what I'm able to get. So one class I have created as a tire, another class I have created as a engine. So now the next thing that we are going to create is a body class. So let's suppose I'm going to create a third class, which is a body class. So I'm not trying to achieve an encapsulation as of now. I'm just trying to create my classes. I'll show you how encapsulation is been achieved. Just to achieve an encapsulation, so I'm just trying to create a multiple classes so that I will be able to show you a example. Simple. So it's completely fine. So in this case, what I can do is, so df underscore init, and then I can try to write maybe a pointer over here, which is a self. You can use anything that you want, and body underscore size is a variable that we can take self dot I can say body size is equal to a body size that we can take over here. So it's completely fine, and then we can try to call like a def underscore underscore str underscore underscore, and then we can try to give a pointer. If you wanted to give some other pointer, feel free to do that. You can test it. So return, and return what? So return, this is my definition of engine class, and maybe I can try to add something else over here. So str, let's typecast it, and then self dot body size I can try to mention. Now if I'll try to create an object of this body class, so b is equal to body, and then inside that I can try to pass maybe body size is equal to maybe SMALL small. Now body has taken no argument. Okay, so body body has taken no argument. I have made a mistake. Now it's completely fine. Print print and then b. So you will be able to find out that, okay, so I have created basically three classes. As you can see, one is a tire class, another one is an engine class, and another one is a body class. A very simple class I have created, and inside each and every classes, so I'm trying to initialize some of the values. Now what next I'm supposed to do? So the next thing that we are supposed to do is, so I have to achieve a encapsulation. Now I'll show you how really this encapsulation is going to happen. So what I can do is, so I can try to create maybe a class called as car, because inside a car, so you will be able to find out a body, engine, and tire. So if you have to define any kind of a car class, so for sure every car must be having a tire, every car must be having an engine, and every car must be having a body. So what I can do in this particular place is, so suppose I'm a person and someone has given me a requirement that, okay, show me so implement a body class, car class basically. So someone has asked me that, okay, fine, so try to implement basically a car class. Now to implement a car class, so maybe I can try to define a body, or maybe a engine, or maybe I can say tire. So as a person, if you have given me this kind of a requirement, so what I can do is, so my approach will be to create a body class, to create an engine class, to create a tire class. Or else what I can do is, so if someone has already created it, someone else has already created this body class or engine class or tire class, so maybe I can try to reutilize. Now, so you will be able to get some kind of confusion, that same kind of a concept that we have discussed inside a inheritance, even over there, so we were trying to reutilize, but over there you will be able to find out that we were trying to inherit all the properties of the parent class. So in this case, maybe I can try to treat my body, engine, and tire class as a parent class, and then I can try to inherit it. But suppose I don't want to achieve these things by using a inheritance. I want some other approach. Basically, I don't want to inherit it. Simple. Or I don't want to treat my body, engine, and a tire class as a parent class. So what should be the approach in this particular case? So as you can see, so I have already created all of these three classes. So let's suppose someone else has already created these three classes: tire, engine, and a body. So what I will do now is, I can try to create a class called as car class, and then inside this car class, so it will be just a normal classes. I would say it will be just a normal classes, and then I can try to write a definition underscore init, and then underscore in this particular place, and then I can try to write self. Now car class should be able to take an argument. Car class should be able to take an argument is equal to the number of the classes that we have already defined, or the number of the classes that or the number of the object that we wanted to utilize from the other classes, or from the classes which someone else has written. So if I wanted to achieve these things in this manner, so maybe I can try to create like a tire T, and then maybe like for engine I'm going to create one variable, and then for a body I'm going to create one variable. Now what I will do is simple approach. So self dot T is equal to, I can say self dot T is equal to T, and then self dot, I can say, I'm just trying to do the initialization. There is nothing to do with the class that we have already created as of now. Both are separate. I will try to build a relationship in between for sure. So self dot B is equal to B. That is completely fine. Now what I have to do is, so now I will try to override a str method. Again, there is nothing to do with the parent class in this particular case, str underscore underscore, and then I can try to pass a self over here. Return wise return. So do one thing, just try to return this tire, engine, and body, the local variable which I have created inside a car class. So not an issue. Str, and inside that, so self dot a t, I can try to return plus, let's put some space in between, and then maybe I can try to create a str, and then self dot, I can say like e over here, self dot e. Now let's try to do one thing. So plus, and then try to utilize something else over here, and then str, and again inside that, so last variable is equal to b. So it's very simple. So sclf dot, so it's completely fine. Now, so I have created basically a car class. Now I will try to create a c is equal to car. Now inside that, so I can try to pass any three values, which is representing a car, engine, and body. Let's suppose. Now in this case, if I'll try to do a print, now in this case, what will happen is, so whatever local variable that we are trying to pass, so we are able to print it according to str. That is completely fine. But I will not be able to fulfill my requirement. What is my requirement basically? My requirement was to implement this class in such a way that it will be able to reutilize a tire class, engine class, and a body class. That was my requirement actually. That was my actual requirement. And the thing is, someone else has already written a tire class, engine class, and body class. So I'm not supposed to worry about all of those tire class, engine class, and body class. What I can do is, so simple, instead of passing a local variable, I will be able to pass a tire, engine, and a body. This is the object that we have created, T, E, and B, I would say. So we have already created an object for a tire, engine, and body. So instead of passing a data over here, so I can try to pass an object. And again, one more thing, don't get confused by this variable TEB and this variable. If you want me to change, so I can try to change these things to TI. I think that will be much better. EI and BI. Let's suppose. So this is a TI. Again, I can try to add over here, and again I can try to add I over here. So just to remove your confusion, so many of you will get confused that I'm trying to use a same words over here, and how I will get to know about this word if we are talking about this encapsulation. So you're not supposed to worry about that, guys. It's completely fine over here. Now what you will be able to find out. So here I have passed T, E, and B. Now what was T and E and B? So T, E, and B was basically an object. Object of what? So object of the respective class. T was basically an object of a tire class. E was basically an object of the engine class, and B was basically an object of the body class. Now here, so instead of passing my own data, I can try to pass an object as well. Previously, I was trying to pass some kind of a string. That is also fine, I would say. So that is also fine. I was trying to pass a string. That is also fine. It's completely fine. You will be able to get some output. It's completely fine. But what I want is, I wanted to reutilize those particular classes. Now, so when I'm trying to reutilize those classes, I don't even know what I have written inside the engine class or body class or tire class. Let's suppose it was written by someone else. I'm not even aware about that. I just forgot it. So what I have written inside a tire class, engine class, and body class, what I can do is, and what I wanted to know is, or what I'm interested into is, like I will try to pass just a data. I will try to pass just a data, and then it will be able to give me an output. And that's the reason. So I have just created a tire, engine, and body class object. Simple. And that object I wanted to call inside a car class, because tire, engine, and body, all these three will be a part of the car class. As simple as that. And in this way, I'm able to call it, and I'm able to access. So suppose if I'm going to call tire, engine, and body over here, you will be able to find out that from a tire class, we are able to get these things. XYZ 56 and 33. So we are able to get from where? So we are able to get from the tire class, because this is the value which I have passed when I was trying to create an object of the tire class. This is the value which I'm getting from the engine class. So yes, I'm able to get that value. And This is the value which I'm able to get from the body class, as you can see. So when I'm trying to call this object, so let's suppose I'm not aware about the class implementation, what kind of a class I have implemented, what kind of a function I have implemented over there. What I'm trying to do is simply, I'm just trying to call an object of the respective classes, and then by just calling an object, so when I'm trying to call this tire object, what will happen in this case? So tire object is going to call internally a tire class. So I'm not supposed to worry about what I have written inside this tire class. Whatever is written, I will be able to get the response. As simple as that. So again, I'm trying to call over here an engine class. Similarly, I'm trying to call an engine class. And again, whatever I have written inside the engine class, I will be able to get it. And again, at the same point of a time, so I'm not trying to do a inheritance. You will be able to find out that there is no parent and child relation which I have established over here. It's very simple. I'm just trying to pass an object in my final class where I wanted to utilize the previous one. That's it. So in this way, I'm trying to hide an implementation of a tire, engine, and body. Let's suppose we always try to call, or we always try to import. Let's suppose going forward, so you are going to do like a import pandas as PD. So when you try to import a pandas, when you try to import a numpy or mat.lib, scipy, cufflinks, and all those things, so for sure at that point of a time, I will not be aware about that what people have written inside all of those respective classes. Simple. So what I will do is I will just import it, and then I will be able to utilize all the functions, all the objects, all the method which has been implemented in the respective class. So even in this case, we can say that, so we used to achieve a encapsulation. Or let's suppose if I'm going to call a range function, I don't even know that what people have written inside the range function. Yes, Python is an open source library. You can try to go into an official Git page of a Python. You will be able to see the implementation. But as of now, when I'm utilizing it, I don't have any idea that how this code of the range function is been written. In your assignment, so we have asked you to write your own reduce function. We have asked you to write your own filter function, so that you will be able to understand the internal implementation, and you will be able to create your own function from the very scratch, so that you will get to know. So basically here I'm trying to call my print function as well, but I don't have any clue that how people have written this print function. I'm just trying to provide my data, and then I'm able to get my output. In the similar way, I can say I'm just trying to create an object of my local class, and then I'm trying to pass other object as a data, I would say, and then I'm able to invoke, or I'm able to call each and everything which has been implemented inside those respective classes. So as simple as that. And this is called as a encapsulation, where we always try to hide an implementation of one class by using into other classes. So in this way, you will be able to implement anything. You can try to write any kind of a function, any kind of a method, I would say, and it is going to work fine for you. So this is called as a encapsulation, and same example we have mentioned inside your, I would say, a slide as well, the slide that we have already shared with you. Now, so this is called as a encapsulation. And again, inside a encapsulation, you will be able to find out two things. So one is called as a composite encapsulation, and another one is called as a dynamic extension. So what is a meaning of a composite encapsulation? So let's try to understand it. So here I can try to add one tab, and maybe we can try to make these things as a heading. So here I can try to write like a CAPTULATION encapsulation composite. So composite encapsulation, actually I'm talking about in this particular place. Now, so in composite encapsulation, what happens is, so whenever you are trying to pass, or whenever you are trying to call a final class, so you are supposed to pass an object of each and everything, or object of all the variable which you are going to call inside that classes. So here I'm trying to initialize three variable, ti, ei, and bi. It's completely fine. So I'm trying to pass an object as a placeholder or object in a runtime. Now there is something called as a dynamic encapsulation. So what happens, and what is like what we can understand about a dynamic encapsulation? So let's try to understand it. So let me make these things as a heading. So fine. What is a meaning of encaptu Sulation. Okay, my bad. So encapsulation. Now, what happens inside this dynamic encapsulation? So let's try to understand this particular part. So we have seen and we talked about composite encapsulation. So now what I can do is, so I can try to call, or I can try to create a dynamic encapsulation as well. So let's suppose, so here we have a car class. So with respect to the same example in your slide, so we have given you another example, but with respect to same example, let's try to understand it. So let's suppose here, so I'm trying to provide an object, but instead of providing an object, if I'm going to pass all the details, let's suppose body details I have to pass. So maybe I can try to pass all those body detail over here itself when I'm trying to call my object. When I'm trying to call my object in this particular place, so if I can try to pass this thing, so you will be able to find out that this result and this result is completely same. So what I have done is, so instead of passing an object, so I have passed a value directly. So even those things are possible. So even you will be able to find out, or you will be able to pass a combination of an object as well as a combination of your own input data for some of the variable that you have initialized. And this kind of encapsulation is called as a dynamic encapsulation, where you are trying to provide an object as well as you are trying to provide your own local variable in some of the requirement, I would say. So in this way, you will be able to achieve a dynamic. So there is a very thin differences you will be able to find out in between a dynamic encapsulation and a composite encapsulation. In a composite encapsulation, we always try to provide an object of the classes which we have already implemented and which we are supposed to reutilize. In case of a dynamic, so it's very simple. You are just supposed to provide an object plus your own data set that you wanted to pass. Now, the next thing which we are going to talk about is called as a polymorphism. So again, polymorphism is one of the important concepts that you will encounter at any point of a time. So polymorphism concept is again very same and very simple. So what is the meaning? What is the layman meaning of a polymorphism? So let's suppose my name is Dhanshu, and at the same point of a time, so this person SUDH can be a brother of someone, or I can say can be a student of somewhere, or can be an employee of a company, I can say. So a person is same, but this person is trying to represent a different kind of a scenario, I would say, into a different kind of a situation. So here, person name is not going to change, a person identity is not going to change, but behavior of the person is going to change, somewhere as a student, somewhere as a teacher, somewhere as an employee, or somewhere I would say as a brother, or maybe some other, or son, or something like that. So person is same, but behavior of the same person is going to change in a different environment or a different situation, and that things is called as a polymorphism. So polymorphism, polymorphism basically. So polymorphism simply means that, so poly means multiple or many, I can say. Morphism means like you are trying to give a different kind of a behavior into a different kind of a situation basically. So that is the meaning of a polymorphism. So there will be one single entity which can behave differently into a different kind of a situation. So if we are able to achieve this particular part, that is called as a polymorphism. Again, so polymorphism is one of the concept which belongs to a object-oriented programming language. So again, these properties are very generic. So whether you are talking about OOPS into a Java, Scala, or Python, or in some other languages, so everywhere you will be able to find out that these definitions are not going to change. Whatever we have discussed with respect to encapsulation, whatever we have discussed we are going to discuss with respect to a polymorphism, or whatever we have discussed with respect to abstraction, public, private, and protected, whatever we have discussed in terms of classes and objects or inheritance. So these are the properties, or these are the keywords that you will be able to find out inside a object-oriented programming language, and definition is not going to change. Yes, implementation is going to change for sure. The way we used to implement one thing in any languages and other thing in different languages is going to change for sure, but definition wise it is going to be same. This is how this entire OOP programming language has been designed. So let's try to understand it, that what is the meaning of polymorphism. B over here. It's a very simple function that we have written in this particular place. Now, so if we are going to call this add x over here, and then if we are trying to pass maybe SUDH plus KUMAR over here. So if I'm going to pass KUMAR over here, if I'm going to execute it, so it is going to give me and this result. So it is going to give me this particular result. So as we know that inside this function, we have used an addition operation. And if we are trying to pass a string over here, so it will try to perform a concatenation. It will try to append two particular string. This is what it does, I would say. Now, instead of passing an argument as a string, so what I can try to do is, so I can try to pass maybe a integer 3, 4. In this case, it is going to do a numerical addition operation. So let's try to pass something else over here. So maybe I can try to pass some kind of a list in this particular place. And so I'm trying to pass a different kind of a data over here in a same method. So method definition is not going to change over here. So I have never changed, I have never manipulated these particular things. What I have done is I'm just trying to give a different kind of a situation over there. And if I'm going to give a different kind of a situation in this particular place, so for sure it is going to behave according to the situation. If I'm going to pass a string, fine, it will do the concatenation. If I'm going to pass a number, it will try to do a numerical addition operation. If I'm going to pass a list, it will try to perform the append operation. So this is how it is going to behave basically. So behavior is different into a different situation, and this is called as a polymorphism. Like I told you, there is a one person, and one person can be a son, can be, I can say, a brother, or can be a husband, can be an employee, can be a student. So there is only one person, and one person is trying to play a multiple role into a different environment, I would say. So that is called as a polymorphism. And again, here you will be able to find out that I have just only one function, and this function is going to behave differently into a different environment. And inside this function, I have used this plus operator. And because of that, so it is trying to behave in this particular way. Now, if I'm going to add maybe a multiplication operation, what will happen? So if I'm going to pass a string and 4, it is going to repeat a same string that many number of the time. And again, over here, it is going to perform a similar kind of a things. It is just trying to repeat it 5 number of times. So again, this is the example of a encapsulation, I would say. So here I have used just a multiplication operation, and in case of a string, it is trying to repeat a string 4 times, depends upon my argument that I have passed over here. Here, what will happen is it is trying to do the numerical multiplication operation, and here, so it is trying to repeat a same list again and again. So this concept is called as a polymorphism. It's a very simple concept. We have already seen this kind of a situation, and I think you all are aware about like what is the output I will be able to get. So it's very simple. So in OOP programming language, so this is the basic of OOP programming languages. And we are going to use this OOP programming language in your project extensively. So heavily, we are going to use this OOP programming language because we all know that whenever we have to productize something, or whenever we are trying to work on an application level or some kind of an application, a production grade application, if we have to create, so at that point of a time, you are supposed to use, at that point of a time, so you are supposed to use a modular coding. And to keep these things in our mind and to achieve these things, we are going to use all of those concepts that we have discussed so far, so forth, starting from the concept that we have discussed called as a class, and then object, I can say, and then multiple ways of creating a classes and the objects that we have discussed. Init method we have discussed, str method we have discussed. We have seen that how we'll be able to use a class variable inside a class and outside the class. We have seen that how I can use a predefined function, or I can create my own function inside a class, how we can basically call it. And then we have discussed abstraction, I would say. Then we have discussed inheritance, and then we have discussed, I can say, like this one, so extension operation, or we have discussed basically like encapsulation operation. So fine.
Sorry to interrupt, Sudhanshu. In between, your video is getting stuck sometimes.
Is it fine now?
Yeah, it is fine now, but sometimes it is getting stuck.
Okay, so maybe a net issue. I'm not sure about that, because I can see net is fine as of now. Bandwidth is also fine, which I can see. Fine, let me know. So once again, if it has happened. Okay.
Sure.
Okay, so we talked about like a classes object abstraction. So where we talk about a public, private, and protected. So we have seen that how we can try to assume something as a public, or how we can try to create something as a private, or how we can create or treat something as a protected, and what is a concept behind an abstraction in Python. So in Python, this is a little bit different. Then we talked about inheritance, and we have seen that how we can try to inherit one single class, or we have seen that how we can try to inherit a multiple classes as well. And then we have seen encapsulation inside the encapsulation. So we talked about a composite encapsulation, and we talked about a dynamic encapsulation. Now, apart from that, so we have seen basically a polymorphism just now. So these are the concepts that you are supposed to remember when we are going to talk about classes and objects, and whenever we are going to implement a class and object kind of a modular coding in our final project. And in between, so yes, many things will come into a picture. So this is not tough at all, I would say. So again, this is not mandatory. If you are feeling comfortable with a Python scripting, you can try to go ahead with that. There is no problem. But it's always better to write a modular coding, and to achieve this, so yes, you are going to need this class object kind of a concept. Without that, you will not be able to do it. The next small things that we are going to discuss as of now is called as a file handling. So let's try to understand that how we will be able to handle a file, or how I will be able to create a file again. So like I told you many times in your session that we are going to discuss about a library called as Pandas. And Pandas is one of the most powerful library that you will ever encounter inside a Python with respect to a file manipulation or file handling. So after this file handling, I will be talking about encapsulation. I will be talking about like exception handling. Basically, I will be discussing about the exception handling. And after that, what I will do is, so after that, I will try to talk about Pandas in very detail, because as a data scientist, so your day is going to start with a Pandas and a NumPy. So these two libraries are very much important libraries for you, and you must know every kind of a data manipulation with respect to a Pandas library. And this is how we have even created our entire Pandas model. So we are giving you like a extensive assignment, extensive practice session over there. Plus, we will try to discuss all those things in a class as well. So in a live classes. Before that, so I would like to talk about a small concept into a file handling without using any kind of a library. Just in a Python code, how I will be able to handle a basic file. So I will try to talk about that over here in this session. But don't worry about that, because in this way, you will not be able to handle all the file. So like in terms of a data manipulation, it will take a lots of time for you to handle a different kind of a file, like a CSV or TSP, or maybe a HTML file, or maybe like a Excel file, or maybe a JSON file, or maybe a Parquet, ORC, Avro, H5, SAV, Pickle. So it will take some time to handle if you are going to handle it with the help of a Python code. But if you are trying to handle all those things into a Pandas, it will be like a cakewalk. Just within a half line of a code, or not even a half line, just with the help of one single word, you will be able to handle those files in a beautiful possible way. And then on top of that, so you will be able to perform any kind of a conditional operation, or any kind of a filter, or data manipulation, or data enrichment, or data transformation operation. You will be able to perform it. So fine. just wait for the Pandas class. And now I'm going to give you a brief idea or a brief discussion about a file handling inside a Python. So let's try to understand, guys, how I will be able to create a file in a first place. So WRITE, so write file is a function. So percentile write file, and then on top of that, so you can try to give your file name. So let's suppose I'm trying to give a test.txt. So percentile write file. So this is basically a function which is available and by which you will be able to create a new file. So here what I have done is, so I'm trying to create a new file. Let's try to name it as a XYG. So fine, I'm going to create a xyg.txt file. As of now, this file is not available. This file doesn't exist inside my system. And then inside this file, so I wanted to write something. My name is SUDH. This is what I wanted to write inside this particular file. It's completely fine, not an issue. I will just execute it. Now it is trying to tell me that writing into this particular file. Now what I will do is, so I will try to go and I will try to check. So first of all, I should aware about a location. So where this notebook is trying to point its location. So it's simple PWD, and it is trying to point out over here, download, and inside that, inside the assignment master, it is trying to point out, and you will be able to find out that here in this particular place, so it has created a file just a second ago. It's a 18 byte of the file which it has created with the name xyg.txt. Yes, this was the file which I was trying to create, so not an issue. So let's try to perform some kind of a basic operation over here, because like I told you, so over here you don't have much control. In Python core, you don't have much control to handle a file. You will be able to get extensive control when we are going to talk about a Pandas library. So you will be able to find out that it's a beautiful and a powerful library, and without writing much line of a code, you will be able to perform many operations extensively. So fine, let's try to do that. So here what I will do is, so I will try to create a function over, try to create a variable over here. Maybe I can try to create a if variable over here, and then I can try to write a function called as open. Now open what? So open my file. Now what is a file? So xyg.txt I wanted to open over here. So xyg.txt, and it's completely fine. So there is a extra this one. Okay, now I'm trying to open my file. There is no issue while opening up this file, so it's completely fine. I'm able to open my file. Now if you will try to print a file object over here, or the variable, let's suppose if I'm trying to print this file variable, you will be able to find out that, okay, so it is trying to open up into a text IO wrapper, and the name of this file is equal to xyg.txt. Yes, this is what I was trying to open up. Now if you have stored some file into some other location, just try to give a fully qualified location over here. So suppose if I wanted to give a fully qualified location, so this is what I have to do. So let's suppose if I am aware about a location, I can try to write this location. It will be fine, I would say. So it's completely fine. So even in this way, so I will be able to read out the file. So this is the file name which is trying to understand. Now, so by default, it will try to open up a file into a read mode. So whenever you are trying to work with a raw file, let's remove this one. Unnecessarily, it's trying to take a space. So it's completely fine. Now here, if I'll try to go through the definition of a file, let's suppose I'm trying to use this particular things for the very first time, and I'm not aware about a definition. So like I told you, simple shift tab, because even in case of Python, you're not supposed to even go to the Google. It's completely fine. If I don't know about anything, I don't have to worry about that. I don't have to even read out somewhere. Everything is available inside a definition of a function itself. So it's completely fine. If I will try to look into this particular variable, so mode is equal to R. Now what is the meaning of it? So whenever we can try to open up a file, so we can try to open up any of the file into a multiple mode, read mode, write mode, and then append mode, I would say, or maybe a text mode, maybe into a binary mode, maybe into a universal new line mode. So there are many mode which is available. And again, if you are coming from some other language background, so in that language also, so you must have got this kind of a mode thing, because this is very generic thing. It's not specific to a Python. You will be able to find out these kind of a thing, this kind of a situation everywhere. wherever. So you are going to like do this file handling, but yes, this method will not be same. This is going to change because everyone try to buffer a file into a different way. So it's completely fine. I'm trying to call this file, and by default it is available into a read mode. If I'll try to write something, I will not be able to write it. I will talk about this for sure, detail. So fine, I'm able to open up this file now. So if I'm going to, so if I wanted to see a data, because as of now it is trying to give me just an object definition. It is just trying to give me like, okay, fine, so this is the mode, this is the encoding, this is the name, and again, so I'm trying to perform some kind of a IO operation, input output operation. But what I want is, so let's suppose I wanted to like I wanted to know that what and all things is been mentioned. So yes, these are the things which is available. /n is basically for the new line. So this is the things, these are the things that we have written when I was trying to create my file. And yes, I'm able to read out all the data from the file. Now again, if I'm going to execute it, again, if I'm going to execute this read operation, so it is going to give me a blank. Again, if I'll try to execute it, it is going to give me a blank. Now, what is a reason behind this one? So why I'm able to get a blank in this particular place? So you will be able to find out that suppose if I have created a file object, and then if I'm trying to perform a read operation, and inside my file, I have written multiple things. So by default, your cursor or your pointer is going to start from the index 0. And then let's suppose if I'm trying to call this operation called as a read. So at the end of this read, your cursor will be available over here. Now, after this, there is no data that we have. So that's the reason. So when I'm going to call this same function again with the same object, so it is going to give me a blank. It is not going to return any kind of a data. Again, if I'll try to execute this part, it means again, if I'll try to refresh that object, you will be able to get a data for sure. But over here, if you are going to execute a same operation twice, same read operation twice, so in that case, second time it is going to give you a blank. Now, so what are the way by which I will be able to reset the pointer? Let's suppose my requirement is to read a data from the 10th indexes, or let's suppose my requirement is to read a data from the second indexes, or maybe I wanted to set a point to the 0th location. So how I will be able to do that? So it's again very simple. What I can do is I can try to call f.seek. Seek is basically a function which is available inside a core Python with respect to a file object. So let's suppose I wanted to set my pointer. So I can try to give, okay, fine. So set this cursor on a second location. Now, if I'm going to execute it, so it has already set the cursor on a second location. Now, if I'm going to call f.read again, so if I'm going to call f.read again, you will be able to find out that it is not trying to print my. It is trying to print basically what? Starting from the name, it is trying to print all the data. Maybe I can try to set a cursor on a 6th location, and now you will be able to find out that it is trying to give me a data from the 6th location. Maybe I can try to set the cursor on a 0th location, and then it is able to give me a data from the 0th location. So seek is basically a method, or seek is basically a function which is available inside a Python core with respect to a file. With the help of that, you will be able to adjust the pointer. So you will be able to point out at any place, and with respect to that, so you will be able to get your data set starting from that pointer till a very last. So many more things you will be able to control with respect to a file, and it's very easy. It's not tough at all. You will be able to control it. So yes, you can try to do experiments, as many experiments as you want, and then based on that, so you will try to open up a file, and then you will be able to read out a file from any of the pointers or from any of the location. Now let's suppose I wanted to write something, or let's suppose I wanted to append something inside my file. So how I will be able to do that? So in this case, what I can do is I can try to create maybe a variable called as f1, and then I can try to call open. Now we all know that by default, if I'm trying to open up some file xyz.txt over here, txt in this particular place, so by default, a mode will be equal to R. But what if I wanted to open up this file into some other mode? So we can try to override a mode as well. Maybe I wanted to call this file into a W plus mode. Now, what is the meaning of W plus mode? Suppose if I'm not aware about a W plus mode. So what I can do is I can try to take a help from this one. So meaning of W is open for writing, truncating the file first. Truncate means, so just remove all the data. whatever is available, and then try to write something. Means it will try to wipe out previous data set, and then it will try to perform the data insertion operation. This is what happens in case of a W operation, just W. Now in case of a plus operation, so open a disk file for the updating, reading and writing. So if you wanted to update something, so you will be able to update it. So W plus, and then I have opened up this file into a update mode. That is completely fine. And then I can try to write something. So if I have to write something, so file, same object, then WRI. This is the function which is available over here, and maybe inside that I can try to write that this is SUDH, I would say, and then closed. Now what will happen in this case? So let's try to understand, and let's try to read out this file. So f1 dot read operation, I can try to perform READ, read operation, and okay, so cursor is at last location because we have done like a write operation. So it has written this file. So what I can do is I can try to call a seek from the 0th indexes, and then I can try to call f1 dot write or read operation, READ, read operation, and then you will be able to find out that whatever I have written, so it has just updated by data set because I have opened up my file into a W plus mode. So write plus update entirely. If you are going to close, or if you are going to call these things with WA, so in this case it will try to write it and then will try to append it. So in this way it will not try to remove the previous data set. So you can try to take all the combination, and then with the help of those combination, WA or maybe like A plus. So in this way you will be able to find out that, okay, so I'm able to perform all those kind of a manipulation with respect to a TXT file. Again, you may ask me a question that what if I have an XML file, or maybe a JSON file, or maybe some kind of a binary file like a ORC, RC, or like Avro and all those files. You will be able to perform all kind of operations going forward. Like I told you in Pandas, so there is a separate class we have just for the file read operation, just for the read. In that one I'll show you n number of a file read operation, even from your Excel sheet, from your CSV, from your HTML, from everywhere. I'm going to show you an example, so you will get to know about all of those things very easily in that particular place. So fine guys, so here I'm trying to like read a file. Now what I wanted to do is, so I wanted to like write a line. I wanted to write a line. So let's suppose if I wanted to write a line over here, so maybe I can try to give a new line character in this particular place. Let me remove this screen, and okay, so here you will be able to find out that I have added /n, or maybe if I'm not going to add, it's completely fine. So let's suppose what I have done is, so I'm just trying to add 2 lines, or maybe I'm trying to call like f1 dot write twice, or maybe if I have a multiple lines inside my file. So whenever I will try to read out my file, whenever I'm going to read out my file, so in this case it is going to show me each and everything into a single line. But let's suppose if I have a multiple line inside my file, how I will be able to read out? For example, what I can do is, so I can try to open up this file in this particular place. And as you can see, I have a multiple line because inside my code, I have given /n. So when it was trying to write, so it was trying to write it into a multiple line. That is completely fine. I can try to write maybe another line as well. So I'm trying to write multiple things over here. Now I can try to close and save and close. Now, if I'm going to call this particular part, you will be able to find out that it is trying to give me everything into a single line. But I don't want it. I don't want these things into a single line. So how I will be able to read out all those data or all those multiple lines separately? So because this is not a readable format for me. So if I have a huge amount of data, for sure I will not be able to read out. So what if we are going to separate it? What if we are going to separate it into a multiple lines while trying to read out a data through the Python code? So to do that, what I can do is, it's very simple. So I can try to call for I in, I can try to write a open what? So open this file. So xyg.txt. So whatever file that we have, I'm just trying to open it up in this particular place. And then I can try to call print. So print what? Print. Print what? Print I. And then you will be able to find out that line by line, whatever data we had, line by line, whatever data we had. So line by line, everything it is able to read out. It is not trying to show you all the results just in a single line. So again, we all know, or we all are aware about a for loop. So it's completely fine. Just try to open up your file, or just try to iterate through your file into a open, and you will be able to achieve these particular things. So this is how you will be able to achieve a multi-line read operation with respect to a txt file. Only txt file as of now. As of now, I haven't discussed about any other file format, so don't worry about that. I'm just talking about with respect to a txt file. Just focus over here with respect to a txt file. That's it, nothing else. Now, the second thing is, so I will be talking about, I'm going to talk about something called as a string IO operation. If you will go through your slides, so yes, we have already mentioned it over there. So I'm going to talk about a string IO operation. Now, what is string IO operation? So let's suppose if I'm going to create a string SUDH over here. So it's completely fine. Now, if I wanted to, because we know that whenever we are going to create a string, so it is going to create this data. It is going to create this data inside your main memory. So it is going to create S as a reference, and then inside that it is going to store your data set, which will be a part of your main memory. I can say, or RAM I can say. It will be a part of your buffer memory or main memory, let's suppose. And whatever data is available in a main memory, so you will not be able to perform this file read, seek, or maybe write kind of operation with respect to these data for sure. So let's suppose I have a requirement. So let's suppose I wanted to treat my string, because when we talk about a file, so file will be available or file will be persisted inside your hard disk. So HDD, inside this, it is going to create a xyz.txt. It will not be available inside a main memory unless and until you are not trying to process it. By default, it will be available, and by default, so whenever I will try to open up my system for the next time, I will be able to get this file, and I will be able to perform all sort of a data manipulation operation. That is completely fine. I will be okay with that. That's not an issue. So here, but with respect to a string, same thing is not going to happen. So next time, if you will try to open up these things, it will wipe out, or it will try to call a garbage collection. And then next time again, if you wanted to get back this data, you will have to go for the execution. So it will not be persisted inside any of the memory location or maybe into a hard disk. Now, let's suppose if I wanted to perform a file-like operation. File-like operation means a read operation, maybe a seek operation, maybe a write operation kind of a thing. So file-like operation, if I wanted to perform, so how I will be able to perform those kind of operation? Let's try to understand that particular part. So it's completely fine, guys. So what I will do is, so I will try to import one library. So from IO, from IO, so I'm trying to import. So import, import what? String IO. So string IO is a package which is available, or you can say string IO is a class, or it's class which is available inside a Python core, or inside Python precisely, let's suppose. So with the help of that, you will be able to, treat your string like a file, and whatever operation that you will be able to perform on top of like a file, you will be able to use a similar method, exact same method. You're not supposed to use any other method. So you will be able to use an exact similar method that we have already discussed with respect to a file, and you will be able to do a data manipulation. So let's try to understand it. Let's try to read out, or let's try to understand how it is going to work basically for me. So let's suppose I'm going to create one variable, maybe S, and S is nothing but it is going to take an input from your keyboard. It's completely fine. Now, after doing this, so let's suppose S is an input, and maybe I can try to pass some kind of an input over here. It's completely fine. This is the value of a S that we have received. Now, let's suppose if I wanted to do a file-like operation. So in this case, maybe I can try to create another variable called as S1 and string IO. So I can try to call string IO, and inside that I can try to pass my S. Now, if I'm trying to pass S inside this one, let's try to check the data type. So here, if I'll try to check the data type of S, So type type of S. So type of S is basically str. Now if I'll try to check a type of S1, if I'm trying to check, so basically it's what? It's basically a available inside a string IO format. This is the data type that you will be able to receive. So we have changed our string to string IO. Now why we have changed that? So that I will not have to learn any other method or any other kind of I would say things to do or to read out this file from like a line from this to this place or anything. So I will be able to perform a file like operation by using a string IO. Now let's try to do it. So if I'm going to call S1, so if I'm going to call S1 dot, and then if I'm going to do tab operation, you will be able to find out that whatever methods was available with respect to a file, all of these methods are available with respect to this string IO object as well. But if I'll talk about a S, which is my string, which is my raw string, so with respect to a string, so there will be a string related method or string related functions which will be available, that we have already discussed in our previous class. I think in second and third class we already talked about that in a very detail. So now if I'm going to call s1.read, read operation. Now read is not a method which is available with respect to a string. Read is basically a method which was available with respect to a file basically. So yes, it's completely fine. Again, I'm trying to do s1.read operation, and let's see what happens in this particular case. So here it is going to give me a blank, and I think we have already faced this kind of a issue a couple of minutes back. So in case of a file read operation, what happens is, so it will cursor will start from the 0th location, and then at the end of the day, so it will sit in a last location once it will be able to read out the file. Now again, if I'm going to find out, or if I'm going to fire a read kind of operation, so for sure after a last pointer there is nothing. So it is not going to give you any kind of a data, it is not going to give you any kind of a output, and that's the reason so I'm able to get a blank. Now let's suppose if I wanted to read a data from the 5th location. So in this case we have already discussed, so s1 dot seek seek. Now in a seek operation I can try to set the pointer, means now my pointer will be available on a 5th index. Now what I can do, so s1 dot read operation I can try to perform, and from the 5th location I'm able to read out the data. So this is the original data set. You will be able to compare, you will be able to match for sure. Maybe I can try to give a 10th, and yes, this is the data which I'm able to get from that particular location. So this is how this things is going to happen, and you will be able to perform this kind of operation in a easiest possible manner. Let's suppose if I wanted to write something, so I can try to write like a s1.write, right? And let's suppose if I wanted to write some kind of a data over here. Now again, if I'm going to call s1, so this is like a s1 dot read. If I'm going to call, so this is something I will be able to get. Let me set my like a pointer. So s1 dot seek is equal to 0, and then if I'll try to read out, it's completely fine, I'm able to read out. Or let's suppose if I wanted to write like my name is SUDH over here, I think that will be a meaningful information. So yes, you will be able to find out that it has appended my new data set over here. So this is how this read, write, seek, all those kind of operation you will be able to implement with respect to a string. So these are basically a method which belongs to a file. These methods doesn't even belongs to your string. But yes, I will be able to use a string IO format, and it's very easy to do a conversion into a string IO. So yes, I'm just trying to pass my string into a string IO. Now it will behave like a file like object. Now, so whatever operation you will be able to perform on a file like object, you will be able to perform all sort of functions or all sort of operations even over here in this particular case. So fine guys, so this is all about, I would say, like a simple, very basic file read and write operation. Now this is not the end of the story, because in a data science, in a machine learning, deep learning, everywhere, so you have to deal with the file every time you have to deal with the file. You have to do a lots of a data manipulation with respect to a variety of the file, and that we are going to cover into a Pandas library. Now, so I'm going to start with a new module. So I'm going to start with a new module, and that new module is called as a exception handling. So let's try to understand that what is a meaning of exception handling. how I will be able to achieve exception handling, in which scenario we are supposed to use exception handling, in which situation we will not be able to utilize a exception handling. Because again, this is a very much important concept that you should know at any point of a time. And whenever you are trying to write a production grade code, so exception handling is a the must concept. Doesn't matter what kind of a code you are trying to write, what kind of an application that you are supposed to build. So this is the most like a kind of a section you are supposed to add when you are trying to do a exception handling. So let's try to understand what is exception handling in very detail and how we will be able to achieve it. So I'm going to write some line of a code over here. Let's try to see, let's try to understand that line of a code. So suppose if I have written print I have written over here, and then so this is a line of code which I have written. If I'm going to execute it, so purposely you have seen that I have missed one quotation. So yes, if I'm going to enclose these things within a quotation, it is going to work fine, but no, purposely I'm going to miss this quotation, and in this case it is going to give me a syntactical error. Now, so there is two things you will be able to encounter. So one is a compile time error, and another one is a runtime error. Now, what is the difference between compile time error and runtime error, and what my exception handling will be able to handle it? Let's try to understand it. So compile time error is nothing but it's called as a syntactical error as well. So let's suppose if I have written a print statement over here, and basically it's a syntactical mistake. Or maybe if I'm trying to write like a SUBH and then +1. So again, I can say that it is going to give me an error saying that, okay, so you're trying to add two things. So whenever I will try to execute it, as of now, this operation is a valid operation. So there is no problem with the operation, but in a runtime, when I will try to execute it, so it is trying to give me an error. So there will be a two type of error which exist. One is a runtime and another one is a compile time. So compile times are nothing but mostly it's a syntactical error, or maybe like some kind of a connectivity kind of error. This is called as a runtime compile time issue. So whenever you are going to get a compile time issue, suppose if libraries are not available, it is going to give you a like kind of a issue. So suppose if I'm going to write something like pandas, pandas, pandas dot read underscore csv. So basically I have not done any kind of an import, and I'm trying to call a pandas. In this case, it is trying to tell me that pandas is not defined, because first of all, I'm supposed to import it and then I'm supposed to call this pandas. Otherwise, it is not going to work. So this is also an error. Let's suppose I'm trying to perform one operation, 6 by 0. So it's again an issue, division by 0 issue. It is going to give you. So there are many more mistakes that we can do when we are writing a code. Maybe an indentation kind of an issue we can do. That is also a compile time error. So there are many more mistakes that we will end up doing while writing a code, and that is completely fine. So whenever you are going to use some kind of a IDE, maybe a Jupyter notebook, or maybe a Spider, or maybe I can say a VS Code, or maybe a PyCharm, maybe a Jupyter Lab, or maybe any other kind of a IDE, maybe a Google Colab, or maybe some like a notebook on a paper space or somewhere else. So whenever you are going to utilize, whenever you are going to use a different like whenever you try to write a different kind of a code, so for sure you are going to make a mistake. Even as an expert, you will try to like write a code and there will be a mistake that you have done, and there could be a syntactical error we can introduce. Now whenever we are going to introduce a syntactical error, so in whatever ID you are going to use, so that ID is going to tell you that, okay, fine, so there is a problem on this particular line, and if it is a syntactical issue, so you can try to go ahead and you can try to handle it. That is completely fine, you will be able to handle it. But let's suppose so I have written my code in this way. So let's suppose I'm trying to do like I'm trying to take one input, input, and then whatever input I'm going to take, so str, I'm trying to convert this input into an integer, because we all know that input is always going to take a string. And after this, what will happen is, so I'm trying to store these things into a variable a. I'm trying to store these things into a variable a. That is completely fine. So let's suppose I'm trying to give a 67, and then below that, what I have done is, so I have written 5 by a. This is something that we have written, 5 divided by a. Now if I'm going to execute it, if I'm going to pass 45, so it's completely fine. 5 divided by 45 is equal to this one. Now if I'm going to pass any other number, it is completely fine. It should be a number. So it is completely fine. It is going to give me a result. But let's suppose if I'm going to pass 0 over here, what has happened? So now it has introduced me an error. So in some situations, syntactically, there is no problem. Whatever code I have written, there is no problem with my code. My code is completely fine. It is working. They have tested it. Now, so in a runtime, when I'm trying to pass maybe some other kind of a data, even though there is no problem with the code that we have written, but still I'm able to get the issue just because of the data that we have passed, just because of the value that we have passed inside this one. So this is called as a runtime error. Or else I'll show you another example over here. So or else I'm trying to call if and if dot. If I'm trying to call if dot WRI, so if dot maybe open, and then I'm trying to open up XYG .txt file that we have just created, .txt file, and suppose if I'm trying to open up into a read mode, and okay, let's try to open up into a write mode first of all. So in case of a write mode, and then I'm trying to write like a f dot writ right. Now, so I wanted to write something. So this is SUDH KUMAR. It's completely fine. Now if I try to execute it, okay, so if dot open, okay, if is a different attribute which I think I have already changed it. Let me change it again. So this now if I changed, because it was trying to take if as a str, so now it will work. If dot open, okay, so what is issue? OPEN, okay. Okay, it's fine. Then so WRI, okay, so if is equal to WRI, I'm just trying to open it up, WRIT, right, and my name is SUDH KUMAR. Now if I'm going to execute it, so you will be able to find out, let me rectify this code so that it will not give you an issue. So now you will be able to find out that there is no issue. I'm able to write it down. I'm able to open it up when I have opened this one. So I have opened this one into a write mode. And then if I'm trying to perform a write operation, it is allowed. It is allowed completely. And then I'm able to write it down. Now, so let's suppose if I'm trying to open up these things into a read mode. If I have changed a mode, and then if I'm trying to execute it, it is going to give me an issue. It is going to give me an issue saying that, no, you have opened up your file into a read mode, and then you are trying to perform a write operation. So in a read mode, only you will be able to read a data. You will not be able to perform a write operation over here. And that's the reason. So I'm able to get this kind of an issue. So these kind of a mistake for sure you are going to do. And maybe most of the time it will not be your mistake. So most of the time you will be able to find out that it's going to happen because of some kind of a connectivity issue, some kind of a data issue, or some other kind of a situation. And because of that, let's suppose if I have written a code over here, so print this if above code is valid. And then after that, so maybe I can try to perform some other operation. So maybe I'm trying to perform 5 plus 6. So if I'm going to execute it now, so if I'll try to execute it now, you will be able to find out that it has done all those operations. And after that, whatever I have written into a print, it is able to print it. And plus it is trying to perform this operation as well. So whatever set of a code I have written after this line, it is able to perform that operation. But what if I'm going to change into this one? So in this one, my code has failed over here. As you can see, my code has failed over here. And if my code has failed over here, it is not going to execute this particular print statement. It is not going to execute even this one. So it means that if my code has failed in this particular case, it is not going to execute any other code which is written after this code. And that's a huge issue. Suppose if I have written a 10,000 line of a code, and at any point of a time, if my code is going to crack, it will not allow rest part of the code to get executed. And sometimes this is a suicidal condition. I will give you one of the famous historical example with respect to a exception handling, that just because of exception handling, what kind of a disaster you can introduce. Now, some people think that I have seen an argument, I have seen a conversation. Some people think that so by introducing an exception handling, so unnecessarily we will end up introducing, I would say, complexity into a code. But no, you should not worry about that, because in exception handling, so unless and until there won't be any exception, you are not going to put, or you're not going to add any kind of overheads in your code. So it's completely fine. Now, some people used to give a claim. Some people used to claim that, okay, so why can't we write a if else kind of a statement? If this has happened, then do this, then do this. But the thing is, human brain must be having a certain kind of a limitation. With your human brain, when you will write a code, you will not be able to think about all different kind of a situation where your code can fail. Because in a production system, we use write a 10,000 line of code. 10,000 lines of code is very less, I would say. In a production system, it will be much more than that one. So now let's try to understand. So now let's try to understand that what has happened in a history. Let me give you one historical example, and it will help you out to remember this exception handling, and it will again give you an interest, so that you will start learning exception handling, and it's not tough at all. Even in our project, even whatever code we used to write on a production grade, the project that we are going to talk about in your classes, we have already implemented all those things. So whatever we are going to discuss, like OOPS, exception handling, and all those Python code, everything will come all together in your project section. So fine. Now, so exception handling, EXCPTION handling, Wikipedia. I'll try to open up a Wikipedia, and let's try to see over here. So there is an entire Wikipedia which has been written after exception handling, and here you will be able to find out a very interesting example from IEEE. It's an authentic example. Basically, you will be able to find out that what could happen just because of a exception handling if you are not going to handle a exception handling. So in a flight, let's suppose if I'm talking about an airplane, and in a flight, so there must be different devices in an engine or in a cockpit. So there will be different devices you will be able to find out. Now with every devices, there will be a sensor. And again, there will be a sequence of the devices as well. If this is working, then this will work, then this will work, or can pass a control from this to this to this. And people have written a code for that, not in Python, in any other languages, because this exception handling things exist in every languages. So people have written a code to do a certain operation. Now, so in one of the code, in one of the sensor code that people have written, so they forgot to handle, or they forgot to introduce a exception handling over there. And just because of that simple mistake in a code, because they were not able to think about that, maybe they have not handled it. Simple, they have not handled it according to this Wikipedia. So they have not even handled that situation. Basically, they have not introduced exception handling in that part of a code, and just because of that, entire flight has crashed. So the flight name was Flight 501, which has crashed in 1996. So just I would say 24 years back. So that particular flight has crashed just because of one code mistake, I would say, exception handling. So one sensor has failed, and after that, it has stopped all the other code. Because like I told you, like I've shown you just by giving you the 4 line of example. So if I'm able to get some kind of exceptions, or if I'm able to get some kind of error, after that, it will not try to execute any other line of a code. And same thing has happened in this particular flight. And you will be able to find out that many people have died in this particular flight. So you will be able to get some numbers as well. So the number of the people who has lost their life just because of one single coding error. And this is a case studies which has been mentioned in an exception handling by IEEE itself. So in a Wikipedia of exception handling, you will be able to find out. And yeah, The programming was everything was written into a Ada programming. So Ada is again one of the famous programming language which was used previously extensively in many of the applications, I would say. So many people have died. Many people have died just because of so many people have lost their life over here. So I'm not able to find out that. Okay. So many people have lost their life just because of this particular failure, I would say, which has happened inside this particular flight. So that's a reason I would say you should learn exception handling. Whenever you are going to write a production grade code, you are supposed to write exceptions. You are supposed to handle each and every situation that you can't think of even. So, and even if one line of a code is going to fail, so make sure that other line of a code is not going to fail. If that line of a code is going to fail, that is completely fine, but it should not fail a rest of the lines, I would say. So now let's try to talk about exception handling, how we'll try to implement exception handling, how we'll be able to write a code into a safest possible manner, and going forward, just try to make these things in a habit. It should be a programming habit, I would say. It's not mandatory. If you are not going to do this, it's completely fine. No one is going to stop you, but it should be an habit. And as a part of the habit, a programming habit, so you are supposed to use a exception handling. So let's try to understand it now. What is a exception handling? So in exception handling, you will be able to find out certain kind of a block. So let's try to talk about a block in a first place. So the first block that you are going to encounter is a try block. So let's suppose I have written a code. I have written 2 to 3 line of a code, or maybe 10 line of a code, or 100 line of a code. Now, what happens is, suppose if I have some kind of a suspicious code if I have written. Suppose if I think that, okay, fine. So it could possible that I may get some kind of a error in a runtime, maybe just because of a data or connectivity or something like that. So it could possible that I may get some kind of an issue. So what I will do is, I will try to keep that suspicious set of the code inside a try block. Let's do it. So here, what I can do is, so there is a try block. So far, so forth, we have just writing our code in this particular way. But what I will do is, I will try to write a code inside a try block. So let's suppose if I'm trying to open up a file like a xyg over here .txt in this particular place, and I'm trying to open up my file into a read mode. Even by default, it will be into a read mode. And then let's suppose I'll open up into a write mode in a first place, then a read mode. So if I'm going to do like a f.writ write operation, if I wanted to write something, as you can see, there is an issue. There is an issue which it is going to introduce. Okay, so there is an issue it is going to introduce. Why there is an issue it is going to introduce? Because I have written a try block over here. So inside a try block, we always try to mention a suspicious code. So I have a suspicious code, I have written that, but with respect to a try block, so suppose if you have written a suspicious code, so you are supposed to mention another block. That block is called as a except block. So let's write except. Except block is a mandatory block. So whenever you're going to write a try block, you should always mention an except block even over there. So I have written except block. Now what I will do is, I will try to write some kind of a print. So my code has failed. Let's suppose if I'm going to write. Now, if I'm going to execute now, there is no issue. I have written two things. I have introduced two more things over here. One is a try, another one is a except. So whatever suspicious code that you have, you can write it down inside a try block. Try block is available in almost every languages. Now, in every languages, you will be able to find out a catch block. But here in Python, there is nothing called as a catch block which is available. Now, what is the meaning of this except block over here? Let's try to understand it. There are just 4 blocks are there which you should know. Apart from that, there is nothing you should know. So let's try to understand it. So here I have written a try block. If this code is going to crack, if this code is going to fail, in that case, it will come to the except block. If my code is completely fine, in that case, it is not going to come to this except block. So in except block, we always try to handle it. Handle it means, so it should not give me an issue. It should not give me an error. Instead of doing that, so whatever custom message that we have written, so that it should write. And then whatever code I have written after that, it should be able to execute that code. So let's try to experiment it. Let's try to execute it. And with me, you can try to do the same thing. So here I have written a try block. As you can see, I'm trying to open my file into a write mode and nothing has happened. Suppose if I'm going to write like a print over here, print, print, and here I can write my code is working fine. Now, if I'm going to execute it, so it's completely fine. It has executed these lines and then it is trying to print, means it is trying to come to this line. In this case, it will not try to do this operation. Now, let's suppose if I'm going to change a mode, if I'm going to make these things as a R, now you must have seen that it is not going to print this particular statement. It is going to print a statement which I have written into a except. If I'm going to print, if I'm going to execute this code separately into a standalone mode, if I'm going to execute it, so it is going to give me an issue not writable and it is not able to print even over here. So my code will fail in this particular place, but it is not going to give me this unsupported operation kind of a thing. It is not giving me anything. Whatever message which I have written, whatever custom message which I have written, so it is just trying to print that particular one. Yes, even in this case, it will not be able to execute this set of a line for sure, because my code has failed in that particular case itself. Now, if I wanted to make this code as a safe, so again, what I have to do is, again, I can try to introduce a try block inside this one. So there could be any number of the try block that you can write with any number of the hierarchy. And then inside that, so I can try to write a print. And again, so with parallel to this try block, so I'm supposed to write except. So except except, and then try to do like a print print, and then this print is working fine. Now you will be able to find out. That what has happened is, so here I have written a code. So here I have written a code over here in this particular place. My code is going to fail. Now, whenever my code is going to fail, so it will look for the immediate except block with the same indentation. And even in this case, you will be able to find out that no, it is not going inside this one because it is coming to the except block. So what I can do is I can try to write my code in this way that, okay, so try to handle this except over here in this particular place. And then after that, so this is another set of the code, and I can try to keep inside another try block. And in this case, you will be able to find out that, let's try to understand this hierarchy. So here, yes, it has failed. Now, if it is failing, it will come to the respective except block. Again, I have a code, another line of a code I have to write. Again, I have enclosed this line of a code inside the try block. And if it is going to work fine, so it is going to print this statement. If it is going to fail, it will come over here. Now, I will try to show you one interesting fact in this particular place. I'm saying that if it is going to fail, so it will come to the next line. This is what I said. I said that if it is going to fail. So yes, I have made a mistake purposely over here. So I have removed a quotation in this particular place. And this time it is not able to handle. This is a syntactical error. Like I told you. So there are two kinds of error. One is a compile time. One is a runtime. So try and except block always try to handle a runtime exceptions. It is not going to handle a compile time exceptions. Make sure and remember that. So don't think that if I'm going to make some kind of a mistake in my syntax, it will be able to handle it. No, it is not going to handle this kind of a mistake at all. It will be handled while writing a code itself, while compiling a code itself, and a hint you will be able to get from your IDE. But if you are going to make some kind of a runtime issue, if you are going to introduce it, yes, in that case, with the help of exceptions, you will be able to handle it. So many people used to ask me a question that you said that it will be able to handle all kind of error. But at the same point of a time, I told you that there are two kind of error. One is a compile time, one is a runtime. So it will be able to handle a runtime issue. It will not be able to handle a compile time issue. So that's the reason if I have written the code in this way, it is going to fail for sure for me. So that's the reason. So I'm able to get this kind of a issue on line number 7. Now, so if I'm going to close it again, now it's completely fine. It will be fine. So this is completely fine. So make sure that you always try to handle a runtime issue inside a exception handling. Now, this is one thing. Another thing is, another example I would like to introduce over here. So let's suppose I have written like a, and then I'm trying to take a input input over here, and then inside that, so it will try to take a 56 over here, and then after that I have written maybe like some 7 by So 7 by, or maybe b is equal to b is a variable I'm trying to write, and I have written 7 by this a. So whatever I'm going to input, so let's suppose if I'm going to input as 0, so it is going to give you an issue called as division by 0 issue. Now what I will do is, this set of a code is a suspicious code for me. I can try to enclose these things within a try block. So try the suspicious code. So I'll try to mention these things inside my try block. This is completely fine. So input and yes, and then along with the try block, so I'm supposed to write except block as well, except except block, and then inside that I can try to write any kind of a message. So print over here, and this is an issue with code. Now, so if I'm trying to execute it, if I'm trying to pass some number, it's completely fine. It is trying to, or maybe I can try to write like a print print b over here. So print b in this particular place, I can try to enter something, and then it is going to print 7 by a. Now let's suppose I'm trying to pass 0. Now what should happen in this case? It should not give me an issue, and this is what you will be able to find out. So here my code has failed. Actually my code has failed in this particular place. But even if it has failed, it is not giving me this kind of an issue. So if it is going to fail, it will go to the except block, and then it will try to handle it over there. So whatever things I have written, it will be able to handle it. And then let's suppose after that, if I have written some kind of a print statement, and this is the line after the line at the end. So suppose if I have written a line, so even if there is an issue with the code, it will come to the except block, and whatever I have done with that code. So again, this is a block where we used to handle it. So I'll try to show you a many permutation combination, not maybe a today's class, because we just have like a few minutes left. So in a next class, I will try to show you variations of all kind of a try, catch, and all try, except all sort of functions over here, and many more things I will try to show you. So this is just an introduction class, I would say, for the exception handling. Like I told you, so exception handling is a very much important concept. Whenever you're trying to write a production grade code, never forget to mention exception handling, because again, so if you are going to forget it, just go and read out the Wikipedia of exception handling. So what kind of a disaster you can introduce inside a code just by missing this particular concept. Again, there is no one who is going to ask you, for sure. So it's your responsibility as a coder. So whenever you try to write a program, so it's completely fine. As you can see here, it is trying to print each and everything. That is not an issue. Now, so let's suppose here it is trying to give you an issue and it is trying to tell you that it's not writable. So basically, these are the things which is coming from the exception class itself. So let's suppose inside my exception, instead of printing my custom message, I wanted to print a system message. So what and how I will be able to do that? So I will be able to print a system message as well. So except exceptions as E. So exception is a super class. I would say, for all kind of exceptions. So exception as E, and then instead of printing this my custom exception, I can try to print E over here, and if there is an issue, it will try to give me that issue directly. In this case, you will be able to find out. So last time or here, it was trying to give me division by 0. Now this particular message was coming from where? So it was coming from the package itself. It was coming from the class itself. But now, so here, even in my message, which I'm trying to print, or the log which I'm trying to monitor over here, I'm trying to maintain over here. So I wanted to print a system given message. So in that case, I can try to call exception as E, and then I could try to print out this exception. So I can try to print out my system based message as well, just by calling this particular thing. Now this is E is not a keyword, I would say. You can try to mention even Y as well. This is just an alias, and it is going to give you a same thing. It's completely fine. So E is not a keyword. Exception, yes, this is basically a super class which exists. So here inside of exception handling in Python, so there is a try block, there is a except block. Now people who are coming from the Java and Scala kind of a background, or even C++ or C# background, you might have seen a catch block. There is no options for a catch block which is given inside a Python. Instead of using a catch block, you are supposed to use a except block. Except block works just behalf of a catch block inside a Python. So that is completely fine. Apart from that, so I wanted to introduce a third block. So there is something called as a try, there is something called as an except. So we have seen both of these blocks. So if I have a set of a suspicious code, so I can try to write all of those suspicious code inside a try block. Now after try block, for sure I'm supposed to handle it. So if there is an exception, so I'm supposed to write a except block just after the try block. Now apart from that, so there is a block that you will be able to find out, and that is called as a else block. And then after that I will introduce another block that is called as a finally block, and then back to back I will try to show you many examples. So let's try to introduce a third block. This block you will not be able to find out in any other languages. This block exists only inside a Python, I would say, and a few programming languages. So suppose if I'm going to write like a try block over here, so try in this particular place, and then a is equal to int, and then I'm trying to take a input over here in this particular input input over here, and then I can try to do like a b is equal to maybe 6 by, or b is equal to 9 by this a, and then after that, so I can write this is this code is working fine in this particular place, and then consecutively I can write exept block over here, and then I can try to write my own custom message print, and then inside that, so there is some issue with the try block, and then I can try to mention else block print executed try block, and it's working fine. Now let's try to understand it. I have introduced one more block that is called as a else block in this particular place. Now let's suppose it is asking me for the input. I will try to give you input as a 8. Now let's see what happens. So let's try to understand a sequence of the code in this particular place. I have written a code input. Yes, it has asked for the input. I have given input as 8, and this code is completely fine. Now it will come to the second line. Now it will try to do 9 by 8. So yes, even this code will work fine, and then it will come to the print block, and it is trying to print this code is working fine. Now, so as there is no error which we have introduced in between this 3 line, so it will not come to the except block. So for sure it is not going to come to the except block, and now we have written another block called as a else block. So here you will be able to find out that it is trying to print this message, means whatever line of a code I'm going to write it down inside my else block. So yes, it is going to print that particular line. So what happens is, like we have seen a for else kind of a thing. So in for else, so we have discussed a for else block altogether. If else is one thing, if else is something which is very common across everywhere. But here inside a for else, we have already seen that if it is going to exhaust the entire for loop, then only it will come to the else block. If there is some blockage in between, so in that case, it is not going to come to the else block. This is what happens with respect to a for else. Now let's talk about a try else. So in case of a try, if it is going to execute try block successfully without any error, so in that case, it will come to the else block. This is what happens. If there is some issue, it is going to encounter inside a try block, and because of that, if it has to come inside the except block, in that case, it will never going to execute else block. Now you can ask me a question that what is the requirement of that? So let's suppose if you wanted to execute something on a successful execution of a code that you have written inside a try block, so you can try to put that set of a code inside a else block. So it's completely fine, guys, not an issue. So here what I can do is, so I can try to introduce maybe a error. So maybe a 0, and in this case, let's try to understand a code flow. So it was asking me for the input. I have given 0. Now there will be an issue with this set of a code. It is going to throw an exception, so it will not execute this line. So if there is an issue in a try block, yes, there is an issue inside the try block, so it will come to the except block. and whatever message that we have written inside the except block, it is going to give me this message. And you must have seen that as there was an interruption into a try block, as this try block was not able to complete itself, so in this case, it will never be able to come inside the else block. It will not be able to execute a code that we have written inside a else block. So that's the reason. So we are not able to get this particular message, which we have mentioned inside a else block. So this is how it is going to behave. And this is how it is going to work, I would say, in case of a try, except, and a else block. So these are the three blocks that we have studied. Now I will try to introduce a four block, so that like block wise will be fine. You can try to test it. And then in next class, I will keep on giving you a different examples, actually combination of a variety of the code. So there is another block which is available. So there is a block called as finally. Finally, you will be able to find out. So suppose if I have written like a print and this block should execute itself no matter what. This is the message which I have written. So this block should execute itself no matter what has happened. So now let's try to do the experiment. Now if I'm going to execute it, now if I'm going to give 8 over here, now let's see what will happen. So let's try to understand this particular part. So there is a new block which I have introduced called as a finally block. So try and except is mandatory. This else and finally is a optional. Now, so we have understood and uses of a else block. So if I want to do something on a successful execution of a try block, I should write all those things on a else block. If try block is going to fail on a successful execution, remember that part, because when I will talk about a finally, it will create some kind of confusion. So on a successful execution of a try block, only in that case it is going to come to the else block. Otherwise, no other condition in which it will come to the else block. Now here you will be able to find out that I have introduced a new block called as finally. Now doesn't matter what, doesn't matter there is an error with the code or what has happened with the code. If you wanted to execute something, if you wanted to execute something for sure, then you can write that set of a code inside a finally block. These are the 4 blocks which exist inside a exception handling, and only 4 blocks. There are many ways to implement it, many ways to do a permutation combination, but these are the 4 things that you should remember anytime. That's it. Apart from this 4, nothing to remember. I will talk about many examples. Even I'll talk about a way by which you will be able to create your own custom exception. So I will talk about what is a custom exceptions and how you can create it by yourself in the next class. But before that, let's try to understand a finally block. So here inside a finally block, I have written some code. So let's go ahead, go through this code one by one. So here it is asking me for the input. So I'm going to give an input. Input wise, I have given 8. So yes, 9 by 8, which is a valid input. So if this line is okay, it will come to this line. Print, this code is working fine. So this code is working fine. So if this entire try is working fine, so it will come to the else block. So inside a else block, it has executed a try block and like it's working fine. So this is the message which I'm able to get. Now, like I told you, doesn't matter what. It will come to else block only if try block has executed successfully. So this time my try block has executed successfully. So it is coming to else block, and then finally block, it will execute all the time. Even if there is an error with the code, I'll show you. Even if there is an error with the code, it is going to execute a finally block for sure in this particular case. So I have written a finally block over here and it is able to execute it. This time my try block was fine, means my main code is fine. Now I will try to introduce some kind of an error. So let's suppose I'm giving 0 over here. Now this time what will happen? So I have introduced an error. So there will be an error in this line. So it will not execute this line. So it will come to a except block. So there is some issue with my try block. So it has printed this line. Now it will not come to the else block for sure because my try block is not correct. My try block is not able to complete itself. So it will not come to the else block. Now it will come to the finally block even in this case. I would say this is how you will be able to like understand a difference between else and finally. Finally executes itself for sure. Doesn't matter what kind of a situation in which you have written a code, but else block will always execute on a successful execution of a code which you have written inside the try block. So this is a finally. and finally is able to execute it. I will talk about uses of all of those blocks, including a finally, one by one, when I'll show you some kind of a coding example for sure. So fine guys, this is all about a finally. Now even if I'm going to make some kind of a mistake like this kind of a mistake, so that is completely fine. You will be able to find out that I have made some kind of a mistake. So it was looking for like a integer. I have given a string over here. So for sure my code is going to crash even in this place, but still it is going to print a finally block. There won't be any kind of a issue. It's completely fine. Now, so maybe I can write something like that. And yes, even if there is an issue with the code, which I have written inside the finally, but whatever is written before that, it is able to execute it. So this is how like a try, except, else, and finally works. Just remember this 4 block. Till the next time when we'll talk about like a different kind of a code example in a try, except, and finally block. And I'll even teach you that how to create your own custom exceptions and how to handle exceptions in your own way, and various different kind of exceptions, because in exceptions there is like a zero division by zero exceptions there, arithmetic exceptions is there, index out of range exceptions is there. So there are many more kind of exceptions which is available. So I will try to introduce those kind of a concept in our next class. In between, so try to go through each and everything and try to write it down. First of all, try to understand a block, then one by one we'll get into a this kind of a discussion. So with that, this is it from my today's class, guys. Those who wanted to drop off, they can drop off. Those who have a question, they can raise their hands, and you can try to like ask question one by one. Okay, so I'm going to take a couple of questions from audience. Yeah, guys, go ahead with the question.
Hi, Sudhanshu.
Yeah.
Gauri. Sudhanshu, I have a question. So in the first one, during the encapsulation, actually, you are using the str like in the method when you are writing the string method, right? Underscore str, and we are writing return str in the bracket. We are writing that self dot something. Why we are, yeah, that's right. So why we are using that str as typecasting? Why we are doing that?
What is a return type of what is a return type of str method?
String.
Return type of str method is string, right? Let's suppose when I'm trying to call this object, so what I'm trying to enter in a bias, what I'm trying to enter
as integer. Okay,
integer, right? Now let's suppose I'm not going to use it. So do you think there will be an issue which I'm going to face?
No, I got it. Yeah, got it. And second question.
See, this is the error which I have got, right? Now can only concatenate str to str. That is a one issue which I have faced, right? But if this is the concatenation issue, right? It is not able to concatenate with the string to the integer. This is the issue which we know, right? Because it will be a string. Now, even if I'm going to remove it, even if I'm not doing any concatenation operation, let's suppose I have just removed it, right? I'm trying to return only this part, right? What do you think? Whether we'll be having an issue or it will work fine? Suppose I'm just trying to return only one thing, bias, that's it. Issue or no issue?
Issue.
Issue. Why?
Because by the number, it's an integer number we are passing the.
Yes, string return a non-string type, right? So string always returns what? String always returns a string type. So whenever you are trying to handle or whenever you're trying to give a data, you should make sure that you try to return all those things into a string format. Now this code is fine.
Okay. So Sudhanshu, second question is that regarding the try and cat except method, actually, you said that when there is a suspicious code, we are writing in the try method, actually.
Yes.
Just for someone who is actually like new to and this actually, when you are understanding there's a suspicious code and we are writing that suspicious code in the try method, right? So I mean, any code we can write, write inside
any kind of a code, even try inside the try, any kind of a code. That's the reason I told you that I will show you enough amount of example, because this is the confusion which most of you will be having, right? So I'll show you, if I'll show you 10-20 examples, after that will be gone. Simple. So I'll try to take some of the heavier coding over here, right? With maybe a 10 line, 20 line, 30 line. And then if I'll try to show you, as of now, I just talked about like what is exception definition wise, and then how many blocks are available, and like what is the meaning of different blocks. And again, I didn't talk about like, I would say what is a custom exception. Suppose division by 0, right? So 9 by 0 is an exception which my system understands, right? But let's suppose if I'm trying to do 9 by 5, and this 5 I wanted to treat as an exception. Possible, right?
Yeah.
Someone has written a code to treat 0 as a exception, right? If you will try to go inside the numpy, so this is going to give you an issue over here. But if I'll try to write same thing into a numpy, right, you will be able to get an answer as an infinity, INF. INF is a symbol which exists inside the Python NumPy package, numerical Python package, right? But in core Python, it is giving me an issue because someone has written a code that, okay, so if I'm trying to, if in a denominator, right? So if in a denominator, if I have a 0, so it will give me infinity. So just raise an exception. But same thing is not an exception inside the NumPy package. I'll show you that as well when I'll talk about NumPy. Okay. So basically, someone has written a code for that. Now, how I will be able to create? Suppose if I'm trying to do 9 by 5 and I wanted to treat 5 as exception. If someone is dividing, although this is the valid division, right? 9 by 5 is going to give you some value, right? But no, I wanted to treat that as an exception. There could be a situation people can ask you that no, this value should not be 5 at all. Suppose if you're trying to take a data from the sensor, right, and someone has told you that no, so this sensor value should not be 5 at all, right? If I'm getting a 5, it means it's a completely incorrect value. Now raise the exceptions in that case. Now there is system will not treat these things. Maybe you can write an if else kind of a block, right? You can write a if else kind of a block and you can handle it. But I'll teach you that how you can create your own exception, which will treat a 5 as a exception, division by 5 as exception, and then it will try to throw it, or it will try to capture it just with the help of try catch block. So these are the things which will come into a picture in the next class probably.
Thanks, Sudhanshu.
Yeah.
Sudhanshu, hi.
Yeah, go ahead. Question.
My question is with the exception learning. I'm not able to figure out the differences between try catch and if else. So can you tell me?
No, try, there is no catch block first of all which is available.
Yeah, try except and try except and
see in if else, right? So suppose in if else I have written a condition. So in if else generally what happens is I write a condition. Now I write a condition based on, I would say, like my thought process, right? So whatever what I can imagine, right? So suppose if I can imagine that over here in this particular case, so maybe I can imagine that, okay, so suppose if I'll ask you to handle this code with the help of if else, right? Now, what will be your thought process? So what kind of a if block you will write? Just tell me.
So if
you will write if input, the input you are trying to give. So input is not equal to 0. Agree? If input is not equal to 0, so let's suppose if I'm trying to write a code over here, so you can write next line of a code in such way that if a is not equal to 0, agree? If a is not equal to 0, so in that case, do one thing. So perform this kind of operation and then print a value of what? Print a value of b, right? Okay. Now, so I'm trying to pass 0 over here. In this case, there is no error. Agree?
Okay.
Agree? Okay. There is no disagreement with that, right? So basically, this is the condition which you can think of. That okay, so if this is the situation which I'm going to face, so in that case I am just trying to write a if statement. Now what I will do is, now what, have you thought about this statement as well, that someone can pass a value as a string into a denominator? Have you thought of that?
No, not exactly.
No, right? So this is where your if will fail. Now let's suppose even you thought about this one, right? Now what you can do, you can write another condition. If this and this and this and this, suppose 10 kind of a situation you have already faced. Agree? So this is the situation which you can imagine as a human being. This is our capability as a human being, right? But let's suppose in a real time, I have written this code, right? I have written a condition that, okay, if it is not equal to 0, if it is not equal to string, right? If it is not equal to string, or maybe if it is str, right? If it is not equal to str, or maybe if it is not equal to file, right? So these are the 10, 20 condition I am able to think of, right? Now let's suppose in a runtime, what I will do is, so I will try to pass maybe I can try to pass maybe what I can do is, so I can try to pass maybe some of the database object, or maybe some kind of a file object, or maybe a string IO object. If I'm going to pass, can I say even in that case it will fail? It's not a string data type. You can try to put a restriction only based on your imagination, right? By using an if statement. But beyond that, you can't think of. Agree? Now let's test this code. What I will do is, so I can try to pass a string over here. So let's suppose I'm trying to pass a string. Can I say that in this case, even a string it is able to handle? Even file object it is able to handle, right? Everything. So I'm not supposed to think about, can I say like all the different kind of a situation, right? Now I'll show you one more interesting thing. Exception, okay, as E. And then here I can say E. Fine. Now, it is trying to give me a complete, I can say, a saying. It is trying to give me a complete, I can say, like a statement that this is the kind of issue which I have faced. Invalid literals for the integer base 10. So this is basically because of invalid literals, I'm able to get this issue, right? This is not a statement which I have written, right? System return statement, I'm able to get, right? Now I'll execute one more time. Can I say this had changed? Division by 0 exception, which I'm able to receive. Agree?
Yes, sir.
So even in this case, so in case of a if, will you be able to get that? You will have to write it down by yourself, right? And how many conditions you will be able to imagine? Because we all have a capacity, right? Thought process. So this is where exception. That's the reason I have made a statement in the very beginning that many people think that if there is a if else block, I will be able to do it with the help of if else block. Then why do we need a try catch, right? Probably these people have done the same thing. And because of that, entire code has went for the toss. And because of that, many people have lost their life. You can try to check, almost like a 300 plus people have lost their life in that incident, basically, right? This is where exception handling comes to picture. Yeah, next question, please.
Hi, Sudhanshu. Krishna here.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I have one question in this exception handling, Sudhanshu.
Yeah.
So when we are passing 0 from the keyboard, that time program giving me that division by 0 exception, and the program execution is stopping.
Yes.
So instead of stopping, again, I want to make program can execute the asking for the input.
Yes, yes, yeah. So I told you, basically, I'll show you this application, and this exact application that you're talking about, right? It will keep on asking me for the input. It will keep on asking me for the input. So unless and until you are not going to put a valid input. This is basically a program which I can write, and this is a same program, whatever slide we are going to upload, right? It's the same program which is already available inside your slide as well. Exactly same thing, right? And in next class, I'll show you this as well. Okay. So it will keep on asking for the input. Don't worry about that. I'll show you an example.
Thank you so much.
Hi, Sudhanshu.
Yeah, go ahead with the question.
Actually, I would like to. Yeah, actually, I would like to understand as in Python, every data type is loosely coupled. So if I want to, like in the car example, if I want to make sure that the object we are trying to insert, it should be a engine type or the tire type. So how we can,
similarly write a condition over there.
We can implement
right?
that.
Yes, you can write a condition over there. We'll do that. We'll do this kind of a case, basically. So we are going to write a condition that no, so whatever input that you are trying to take as an object, so it should be it should be a class type object itself. Because can I say that I will be able to print the object type of any of the object that it belongs to a tire class or engine class or car class, right? Now, can I say that if I can print it, if I can write a condition as well?
Yeah, sure.
Right? Same thing we are going to do.
Yeah. Actually, in the init method, I was trying to put the if condition, and then I was trying to check.
No, init basically has been used for the initialization. Actually, init is been used for the initialization. In a method, you can write all those conditions. It will work fine. Okay. So in a method, so try to do that. It will work fine for sure. Because see, in a init method, can I say that you are trying to insert a data on an object call? Car C is equal to car, and then you're trying to put a data, and then it is going to init. Now, how data is going to the init, right? So once you will try to create an object, unless and until you are not creating an object, can I say that init is just like some kind of a definition? It is not taking a data. It is not having a data, any kind of a data. Agree?
Yeah.
So at the time of object call, can I say that I can write a condition that if this object belongs to this particular class, then only try to take it. Otherwise, this condition is false. Making sense?
Okay.
Yeah. So on an object call, actually, you are supposed to do it, not on a init. So if you're trying to do it on a init, it's basically a wrong approach, I would say. So you should not do that on an object call. You can do it, and yes, it will work. And I'll show you that example as well. That is not a concern. It's basically if I'm able to get the type right. So the way I'm trying to write like okay, list type is equal to this one, then do this kind of things in my past classes, right, where I have shown you the code. In a similar way, in an exact similar way, you can write it. Simple, right? So do this. Try to do it by yourself.
Hi, Sudhanshu.
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead with the question.
This is regarding the try else.
Okay.
So can we consider else as something that will always look for the block that is existing above? Unlike we have seen some examples.
No, not existing above actually, because above except above else a statement. So there is a except a statement, right?
Yeah. So
no, it will not like that. It will always look for the successful execution. That's the reason. So I have written it has executed a try block and it's working fine. I just made a kind of a comments over there. that it will only execute in a situation when try is going to execute it successfully. Only one condition, successful condition, that's it.
Yes, you're right. But my question here is, since except is, so can we conclude that except here is acting like if always? So since for else also, if for is executing, else will not execute. So here also, since except is not executing, else is executing.
No, ma'am, we should not. You can build your own logic in this way, but like as a teacher, I will not give this kind of a definition. I can't take this kind of a definition. Yes, whatever you're thinking is correct. I would say if except is going to execute, then else will not execute, right? But it will be kind of a misleading, I would say, a definition, and I won't go for that definition, even though the definition that you have given is a correct one. Yeah.
Okay, can you quote some example where this conclusion, whatever I have drawn, is completely wrong?
Okay, no, so basically, like if there is a except, if code is going inside the except, for sure it is not going to come inside the else block, right? So even in this case itself, so if I'm going to pass 0, so can I say that if 0, it is going to the except block? It is going to the except block, right?
Yeah.
Can I say that that's the reason? So we are getting a division by 0, right? So can I say that, okay, so if it is going inside the except block, that's the reason, so it is not trying to print my else block. Agree?
Yeah, correct.
Fine. So your conclusion is correct over here. Although that conclusion is correct.
Correct, but you're saying that as a teacher, you will not suggest
that.
Yeah,
I'll not go after that definition, I would say. I'll not, definition wise. Right, this is not a correct definition. So generally I used to give a definition that, okay, if try is going to execute it successfully, then only I would say try to go ahead with the else block. Otherwise, don't try to go ahead with the else block.
So in what all cases my conclusion would be wrong?
No, your conclusion is not incorrect. This is what I said. Your conclusion is not incorrect, but still I will not go after that definition. Right? Yeah. So fine, guys, I think like we have talked about many things in today's class. So just try to go through each and everything, whatever things I have practiced in my class. So just try to practice the same thing by yourself. And again, so like assignment we have already uploaded. Try to complete assignment, try to submit assignment on time or before time if you want. And in the next class, Friday's class, I will try to continue with the same topic, like exception handling. I will try to show you many more examples. And after exception handling, so I will try to show you some kind of a normal database operation as well, because we have to talk about like some SQL databases, plus we have to talk about like some NoSQL databases like a MongoDB, which we'll be using in our project. So yes, so that will be agenda for our next class. I will talk about like I'll end this topic, exception handling topics. I'll show you many other perspective over there based on the same discussions, basic discussions, same base discussion, I would say. And then I'll try to take it ahead. With that, thank you so much, guys, for attending this class. And your recordings are already uploaded. Previous class recording, your materials are already uploaded. I have not uploaded exception handling materials. It will be available in some time in your dashboard. Probably by tomorrow morning, you will be able to find out. So try to practice it. Try to practice it by yourself the way I'm trying to practice in live sessions in a similar way. This is where you will be able to get a strength. Try to do a permutation combination, which is very much important to learn any kind of a coding. Without that, that is completely impossible to learn a coding. And when you will start doing a permutation combination, you will see that it's nothing but just a typing. So coding is nothing but just type something simple. It's kind of a typing practice. It will become for you. So just add that to in a couple of weeks. It doesn't take like a month or years of time. So just within a couple of weeks, I would say, so it will become like a kind of a typing for you. It will not be like a coding then. It will not look like a, I'm trying to do something in a Python. It looks like I'm trying to write some story. I'm trying to type some story. That's it. So fine, guys, with that, I will take a leave. So thank you so much to join the session. See you again in a next session. So have a great night and day ahead, people who have joined from India and abroad. With that, thank you so much.